I feel and look like Cousin It, okay? I have wavy hair and I just brush through it and I'm all poodle headed now. I have been fighting some demons lately, and it's that I need the little DJI Osmo camera. I got my nails done. How cute are these? Hold on, focus on the nail, bitch. Love giving clown core, giving court jester. Fun, right? I just went to a place like near the grocery store I go to. Anyway, hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's CJ. I was the proprietress of this gorgeous YouTube channel once upon a time. This is just gonna be a what I've been reading, catch up, favorites type vibe. Books, reading. Yeah, I have been doing that. Let me tell you a little bit about the books I've been reading lately. Some really cool, fun stuff that I've read recently is Stag Dance by Torrey Peters. This is a novella and a story collection about identity, transness, genre expectations, gender expectations, the moving target of trying to conform or feel affirmed within gender expectations. I really liked this. I saw my friend Sunny review it and say that she found it really like hopeless and sad, and I agree with that. I kind of feel like that is the state of gender politics in our country right now, and Tori was just like writing from that place of despair and anguish in a way that didn't feel kind of like, I don't know, DEI politic forward or something, if that makes sense. It felt refreshing to me to read about that somber, hopeless tone in a book written by a trans woman. The book itself is comprised of different short stories, and they're all different genres, which I found really fun. One was kind of like a cryptid folklore historical fiction piece about gay lumberjacks. That was probably my favorite. Another was a coming of age high school love repressed closeted situation. Another was maybe like thriller horror set on the Las Vegas Strip, and another one was like a dystopian sci-fi, all kind of again going back to these themes of identity and sex and pleasure and gender. Really fun and interesting. If you're a short story lover, I would recommend you check it out. Some are stronger than others, obviously. I think the general takeaway is that people didn't like Stag Dance the most, which is the Paul Bunyan cryptid vibe of loggers and lumberjacks. I loved it. I think something that I've learned about myself through reading The Sisters Brothers, Stag Dance, In the Distance by Hernan Diaz, what are some other books like that that I've read, is that essentially I love a Western. I love an adventure novel if it's done in a particular way, and that really scratched that itch for me. So I think the hype is real surrounding Stag Dance. I think Tori is an incredible thinker, and I can't wait to see what she does next. Kind of really subverted expectations after her grand slam of Detransition Baby, and didn't placate, I guess, any understanding of her trans identity to a non-trans audience in a way that I found like truly transgressive and fun and interesting. Another really interesting book that I've read recently is Fledgling by Octavia Butler. I've read other work by Octavia Butler, but not in a while, and it was interesting to be back with her again. And Fledgling essentially tells the story of a baby vampire who is a 50-year-old woman who is in the body of like an 8-year-old black girl who overcomes a really traumatic event and is found by human partners and has to off them to survive, form family with them, form alliances with other existing vampire families, navigate like race and gender politics in a really interesting way. I was deeply uncomfortable reading this book. It's not light subject matter. There's, you know, the body of what is a human 8-year-old girl having sexual relationships with an 80-year-old woman with a 35-year-old man, but she's really, you know, a 50-plus-year-old vampire. And I just found it really refreshing to be in this particular kind of vampire trope that was so turned on its head. I've never read anything like it. It was disturbing and weird and queer, and I really wish there were more in this series. I think Octavia Butler died before she could continue the rest of them, but you could kind of tell at the end that there was more to be explored here. I think it's worth reading if you like vampires, if you like speculative fiction. It's also set in the Pacific Northwest, which is just like funny for like the twilight of it all. I liked it. It was gross. I feel like no one talks about this book when they talk about Octavia Butler. It's always Kindred or Bull the Sower, and this was not that, baby. It was not that. I think you should read it if you are into horror or vampires. Another book I read and loved was Bastard Out of Carolina by Dorothy Allison. This is a autofictitious novel about a young girl named Bone growing up in poverty in the South and raised in a crazy ass family dynamic. She has a bunch of these like really tough broad aunts and alcoholic binge drinking uncles who fight like hell and love each other really hard, and she's trying to navigate stepfathers and being a sister and growing up and trying to ascertain some kind of identity for herself and pull herself out of the poverty that her family is in. And it was just really touching and earnest and kind of a seminal piece of lesbian fiction that I hadn't read before. I resonated really deeply with Bone and her family dynamics. I too have a bunch of tough broad aunts and crazy ass uncles who would quite literally die for me, and I think there's some kind of loving lens and loving depiction on the white trashness of it all, or the lowbrow of it all. I don't know what kind of term you want to apply to that kind of working class white family living in the South that just felt like love to me. It just felt like love and like acknowledgement and really realized and fleshed out and real. I love it, and I just felt like I'm a part of that family. I know so many families like that. Growing up in Florida and on the Carnival, there's just like so many different archetypes of those kind of inner family dynamics going on. This is a heavy book. There's a lot of child sexual abuse in it that I also thought was like really beautifully depicted and done with a lot of care, and you can just tell that she's drawing from her own life to tell this story, and I really appreciated that. I actually picked up her, I think it is a memoir. It's called like A Thing or Two, I don't know. I'll put a picture of it on the screen right now. While I was in Tucson at Antigone Books, which is their like local indie, and I can't wait to read it one day when I want more of this world, this type of writing and this type of exploration of family. Speaking of queer seminal text, I'm a part of a queer book club in Yuma that a queer activist group runs, and we host at Sunny's, and one of their monthly picks was The Faggots and Their Friends Between Revolutions by Larry Mitchell. I have never read this. A lot of my friends have been telling me to for years, and I found it so moving and special. It's co-illustrated and written by two queer activists. I read the most recent Nightboat edition, which had really phenomenal introductions. I think one by a drag queen and one by a queer activist, giving more context into Larry Mitchell, and I think her name is Ned, their life and their commune living in early 1960s San Francisco countercultural publication heyday. I guess it originally was intended to be a children's book, so it's illustrated, not for children by any means. There's a lot of body parts and crude language and I guess not age appropriate themes, but that kind of twisted like fairy tale lens on this. I don't know if YouTube's gonna censor me saying that word. It probably is, right? But I guess I'll say, God, I hate the censorship of like unaliving. I fucking hate I hate having to censor myself to make the algorithm not mad at me, but how am I gonna talk to this book without saying the actual language in the book? Essentially what I want to say is it really highlights, showcases, and affirms queer friendship, found family, womanhood, actual queer politic, and like living it in every aspect of your life in a really incredible, beautiful, affirming way. There's some lines in here and some specific illustrations that like took my breath away, and I think about them often, and I think you should read it if you want a semblance of a reminder of what we're all working towards and fighting for and loving each other for. I've read a bunch of other books too. I read Freak's Law by Janet Flett, which was the gay carnival book that I unfortunately DNF'd at 50% in. I just finished a couple nights ago. It Lasts Forever and Then It's Over by Anne DeMarkin, which is a really sad zombie novel that's a metaphor for grief and loss and longing that I found touching. Maybe a little prosy, like too prosy, too flowy at times for me, but I liked my reading experience of it still at the end of the day. Again, a Pacific Northwest novel, so if you have any attachment to that area of the country, I think you should read it. I read Brother Bronte by Fernanda A. Flores, which was really great. That was a Sunny's book club pick. It was jam-packed, it was funny and sad and endearing and queasy and rebellious and had something to say, which I appreciate in a book. I feel like a lot of books don't have anything to say. I read My Death by Lisa Tuttle, which I liked it right after I read it, and I'm farther away from it now and I can't remember why. I liked the metaphysicalness of it, I liked the ghost story of it, but I don't think I'm going to think about it very much in the future. And I read a ton for work. I think my favorite book that I read for work recently, and it comes out this fall, is called Cry Voidbringer by Elaine Ho. It is a fantasy book about rebellion and taking back what's yours and ascertaining power and God's children and mysticism. It has one of the most incredible third acts of a book that I can remember reading in recent memory. It's high fantasy, high stakes, really compelling, some like interesting world building and lore throughout it, and I think it's going to be really big if you're a fantasy head. Another book I read for work and I loved was Local Heavens by K.M. Fajardo. This is a Great Gatsby retelling set in a cyberpunk near future with a Filipino Nick Carraway, some bisexual panic, some really gorgeous prose writing on the line level, and a really smart, interesting re-examination of wealth and class and all of the things Gatsby has brought up in the culture for the last 100 years. The Great Gatsby just had its 100-year anniversary, and it's interesting to be working on a book in the same year that that happened. I loved working on this book, and the author and the tastemaker are total sweeties. Same with the last one I spoke about, Cry Voidbringer. Last book I loved is The Bookshop, A History of the American Bookstore by Evan Fries. I am a bookseller and I don't know much about that history and that kind of lineage, and I found this to be a really accessible, interesting examination of just genuinely the history of selling books in America, and who has been at the forefront of that, what the kind of godmothers are of book selling, and being able to kind of place myself in a timeline of other people having done this before just felt really meaningful to me and gave more context about what I am doing and why, and other people who have done it before me that I'm greatly benefiting from. So I really liked this book. If you're a bookseller, I think you should read it. That's all the stuff that I've read recently. I, in my personal life, am pretty busy. My spring titles for Bindery of Monsters and Mainframes by Barbara Truelove, a found family hilarious sci-fi novel that is a monster mash of classic movie tropes. Black Salt Queen by Samantha Bansil is a romantasy about forbidden love, taking back your power. There's lesbian mean mommies in it. It's from a pre-colonial Filipino world, also really fabulous. Ruler Mercies by Maren Chase, which is a sapphic revenge fantasy about a princess who is locked in a tower and forms a special connection with her lady-in-waiting. And there's some alchemy and antics involved. And also The Unmapping by Denise S. Robbins, which is a speculative literary fiction book. Its premise is about New York City geographically changing every night at 4 a.m. and the city actually reconfiguring itself and people waking up in unexpected places. Spring season, woohoo! Those are all published on June 3rd. I've been very busy at work, working with the authors and the tastemakers on getting those out in the world and doing as much marketing and publicity as we can, in addition to planning a big launch party in New York City on June 3rd, similar to what I did last year. If you were here for our first season releases in October. And also supporting the next season of books, which Cry Voidbringer, Local Heavens, etc. are part of that. There's 7 books for fall, so my list is growing. I'm already working on spring 26 books too. That's part of what I'm reading, and it's interesting being further into my publishing career trajectory and learning how to accommodate and shift and be in the future and be in the present all at the same time, but having a lot of fun. And it's just so satisfying to work with authors on this level and bring their books into the world. I find it really, really energizing and hard and fun. It's the best job, the best day job I've ever had, hands down. I feel like there's not much to report on in my life. I feel like all CJ do is work and then go to the bookstore and then work. But God, what has happened? There's no like house stuff to update you on. I still haven't painted my room. I need to. Have I gotten any tattoos since I saw you? I don't think so. Have you seen these? I got these like little filler pieces, this tattoo and my little elbow ditch. It's kind of embarrassing how much space I have right here, but like I can't see that with my arms down, so it's kind of none of my business at the same time. I got a tattoo on my leg. I'm not gonna stand up and show you, so sorry, you're just gonna have to picture it. And that's about it, friends. That is about it. Spud is kicking. I'm alive. Kiki's alive. My dad's alive. Sunny is cool. It's slowing down. Independent bookstore day was great. And I hope you're all doing well. I still watch you on YouTube all the time if you're my mutual. I just am a really bad commenter, but I love you and I love seeing your faces. And that's it. Quick proof of life. Love you so much.